Good morning. Welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I'm Rob Muller, a member of the Second Unitarian Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are he, him, his. Today we're in person at Admiral at the Lake and here in the 2U Sanctuary and continuing to meet virtually via Zoom. We're glad you're here, whichever way you've decided to join us. We're continuing to require masking here in the sanctuary in an effort to make our space welcoming to those who are most at risk for COVID. We appreciate you joining us in centering the needs of those most at risk. This morning, we especially welcome newcomers and visitors. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. We're excited to have you and look forward to getting to know you. If you're new to us today, please note that in the Zoom chat or mention it in person after the service. There are blue mugs you can use to signal to others that you'd like them to come up and say hello. Our worship today is led by Reverend Jason Leiden with Dave Heckel as worship associate. Music is provided by our director of music, Carl Kennedy. Our time together this morning requires a large group of people who make possible the worship, the music, and technical production of our service. They're listed in the order of service, and we thank them each for their ongoing support for this community. I have a couple of quick announcements this morning. First, this afternoon from 4 to 6, we'll have our final discussion about the Minister of Religious Education position here at 2U. There will be childcare available and a spaghetti dinner afterwards as an enticement for folks to join us. Everyone's welcome to attend. If you attended one of the previous conversations, no need to come today. It would be great to get everyone's input. Second, the Anti-Racism Committee and Social Justice Ministry are organizing a book reading group to discuss Defund Fear, Safety Without Policing, Prisons, and Punishment. The group will meet on Zoom on 3 Mondays, January 16th, February 6th, and February 20th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. If you'd like to join and would like a book, talk to Reverend Jason and he'll get you a copy of the book. You'll find additional announcements in the order of service. I now welcome Dave Heckel at the Admiral to lead our call to worship.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific things we believe, but by the values we share. Whether you are joining us for the first time or for the 1000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you now, as you are ready, to take a breath in and out. As the music begins, let us enter into our service together.
In just a moment, Ruby here at the church and Harris at the Admiral will light our chalices, the symbol of our faith. And we light our chalices with these words from Paul Sprecher. We light this chalice for the web of life which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life in which we find our being, for the earth, the sky, above and below, and for our Mother Earth and the mystery. Ruby, come on forward. Excellent job. Thank you.
Please rise in body and spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, hymn number 100, I've Got Peace Like a River.
Please remain standing.
Now you're gonna go.
Please remain standing and join me in affirming our covenant. The words will be on your screen. We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion.
Now please join me in singing our congregational hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
I want to invite those who are young in age or young at heart to come join me here on the chancel, if you would be so kind, please. Oh my gosh, Super Person is here, and I'm so excited about that. Excellent. It's a good dress up. Very nice. I need to remember to wear my cape on Sundays. You're welcome to have a seat if you would like. It might be more comfortable. So this morning, I'm gonna ask you to do some movement with me. And it's gonna be movement of your body that you think of yourself. So we're talking in adult church today all about our relationship to the earth and what that's like. And sometimes we can think that humans do a lot of things to the earth that aren't so great. But other times we know that there are so many great things that we love about the earth. And so, for instance, I really like trees, and I love watching them blow in the wind. So I'm gonna make a body movement that looks like trees blowing in the wind. So like this, blowing in the wind, the trees. So if you could think of something you love about the earth, what kind of body movement could you make that looks like that? Yeah, Zella. Flowers bloom. I love that. Thank you. Anybody else? Something your body could do that shows something you love about the earth? Lumi, yeah. Trees grow. How does that look? If your body looked like a tree growing, what would it would go like this? Up and up and up, all the way to the top of the sky? Yeah. Yes. Ooh, flowing like this? Ooh, I like it. Very nice. And my friend Nolan, what do you like about the earth? Anything that you want to show us a movement about? It's okay if you don't want to. How about any adults? Any adults have something in your mind that makes your body move in a way because of the love you have of our earth? Somebody's got one. Yes, Alicia, of course. The rain. Yes, move our bodies like the rain. You have another one, Zella? Rivers go into the ocean to get wider. Yeah, it's pretty great. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. Full ocean. Amazing. Where do the rivers come from? What a good question. I think different ones come from different places. Any other adults? Wind. Thank you, Margot. Waves. Yes, Sam. Appreciate you. All right, well, thank you all for moving your bodies like the earth and the ways that our earth moves, because we as humans, we are part of the earth. That's one of the most amazing things about it. Maybe we have some tension with the earth, some stress sometimes about how humans are treating the earth, but without the earth, there'd be no humans. And so we are in relationship. We depend on one another, us and the earth and us. So as you go off to your classes, I hope that you can enjoy thinking about some ways the earth nourishes you and feeds your spirit. And so let us all sing Go Now in Peace as our young people go off to class. You will likely recall that each year we make a commitment, each of us, a pledge to support the ministry of this, our beautiful church. And in addition to this pledge that we make every year, we also take a collection on Sundays so that we can share it with those who are doing justice work well beyond our walls. And for the month of, what are we in, January, we're going to share our plate with the Diverse and Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries. And this is the one time in the service where it's super appropriate to take your phone out, and we all miss it for the few minutes that we aren't looking at it. And so it's great to take it out and follow the text prompts and make your contribution. But for this morning, we have some words from Belinda Brown about drum.
This morning, I'm here to tell you a little bit about our plate share organization, DRUM. Of course, spelled a unique kind of way, a Unitarian kind of way, DRUUMM. They're the oldest and largest BIPOC group within the UUA. Its members are made up of people who identify as people of color, along with a large separate group of allies working together toward racial justice for all. UUA people of color, anti-racist lay people, and religious professional working together to overcome racism. Our funds go to pay for Second Unitarian Church's membership in DRUM, funds to continue their national programs and events, along with seed money for our chapter. Thank you.
Now I invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. The words are printed in your order of service and are shown on the screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
Now I invite you, wherever it is that you are, here in the sanctuary, gathered at the Admiral, maybe you're at your home, and join us in this spirit of prayer or meditation across space. And let us begin, as we always do, by breathing together. Out of the busyness of life, let us take time to slow down. Try relaxing the muscles in your shoulders. Release the tension in your neck. Unclench your jaw. And rest into this space. We begin in thanks. Thankful for the breath in our lungs, the beauty of our earth, and the strength of this, our beloved community. We hold in our hearts those who care for family in ill health, those who live with grief or chronic pain, those struggling with addiction or illness, seen and unseen. We are with you. For parents and teachers and all those whose primary spiritual practice is the care for children, we are with you. We pray for our neighbors in prison, for those who are struggling to stay afloat in the midst of poverty, for those making homes in tents along our streets. We are with you. We pray for all those living in harm's way. We pray for our planet and commit to work that leads us away from the harms of climate chaos. As war continues, we pray that wisdom, compassion, and empathy guide the leaders of our world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. Our lives are truly blessed by those who knowingly, with curiosity and courage, face their final days. During this time of transition and change in the year, may those making resolutions be filled with steadfastness as they move on and make new choices in their lives. May those of us who choose not to make resolutions have gentleness as we take on a new year, as it showers over us. Into this shared silence across space, I invite you to speak the name of anyone you wish to lift up into the loving support of our community. With our deepest compassion, let us hold in our hearts those named and unnamed, those remembered and those forgotten. Let it be so. Amen and blessed be. During our ritual of candle lighting for joys and concerns, we want to continue to maintain our safety with one another. And so in the 2U sanctuary, you are invited to come forward and light a candle. And as you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting, I invite you to use the hand sanitizer that's available for you. For those at the Admiral, I invite you to come forward and take a pebble from one bowl, hold it tightly in your hand, and knowing your joys or sorrows to be shared by this community, let it go lightly into the other bowl. And for those of us on Zoom, please join by sharing your joys and concerns in our chat window. And I will light this candle here, representing your joys, celebrations, concerns, and sorrows. We hold all of these, our shared joys, celebrations, concerns, and sorrows close to our hearts. Dave, would you share our first reading, please?
Our first reading is a poem by Mary Oliver. She titles Yes, No. How necessary it is to have an opinion. I think the spotted trout lilies are satisfied standing a few inches above the earth. I think serenity is not something you just find in the world like a plum tree holding up its petals. The violets along the river are opening their blue faces like small, dark lanterns. The green mosses, being so many, are as good as brawny. How important it is to walk along, not in haste, but slowly, looking at everything and calling out, yes, no. The swan, for all his pomp, his robes of glass and petals, wants only to be allowed to live on the nameless pond. The caterer is without fault. The water thrushes, down among the sloppy, rocky rocks, are going crazy with happiness. Imagination is better than a sharp instrument. To pay attention, this is our endless and proper work.
Thank you, Dave. Our second reading this morning comes from Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Animals. Maybe not a title you're familiar with, but is excellent. There is more than one way to breathe in the Arctic. Ask the narwhal, beluga, and bowhead whales. Beluga shapeshifts, evolve to look like ice itself and congregates in the shallow estuaries, singing. Narwhal stays in deeper water, nearer to pack ice, grows a horn to break through, changes color over its life, needs no other teeth, just the one. Bowhead says, bigger is better, and moves alone, strong enough to break ice with a bare skull, old enough to remember before all of this never stops growing. And you? Maybe it's time to remember that there is more than one way to breathe in the icy depths or the summer heat. To thank your ancestors for how you have evolved in the presence of polar bears, harpoons, and other threats. To think on what you want to shift, how you want to grow, what you need to remember. And me? It was always you I loved, not your elegant strategy. I will love you still if you now outgrow it. I will love you more whether time moves forwards or backwards, whether ice melts or water freezes back, whether your next move is protection, breakthrough, shift, or any combination. There are at least 3 ways to love you: as you were, as you are, as you will be. I love you. That means I choose all 3. Let's hear our anthem.
Our anthem today comes from the great Harry Belafonte. Turn the World Around initially debuted as the title track of his 1977 album, but then was famously performed the following year in '78 on the Muppets TV show. I think Belafonte's ability to translate his message of love and connection from the oldest all the way to the youngest is part of what makes him such a profound cultural ambassador. So as I sing this, I invite you to sing along if you know the words. I invite you to move. For those of you at home, no one's looking at you, so you can boogie down. So here's Harry Belafonte's Turn the World Around.
Now, Carl, was that your first anthem solo singing with us?
Maybe.
I think it was.
Solo.
What a
Solo.
joy. What a joy. Thank you. Ah, goodness. Well, we know a lot about the ways that humans live in a parasitic relationship to our planet. We pray each Sunday for our Earth and renew our commitment to get ourselves free from the harms of climate chaos. Humans are creating many of the problems our Earth is facing, but that is not the whole story. April Neander won the raffle to choose a sermon topic, and she suggested something quite different from this dominant story. There can be overwhelming hopelessness about our planet at times. There's even a growing field of study that looks at the impacts of climate depression. People are struggling, and there is more than that. Amongst the harm, there is also beautiful symbiosis. As Unitarian Universalists, we know and believe in this connection. We recognize it in our seventh principle, and we find it in our reverence of both earth-based traditions and our connection to our transcendentalist ancestors. There is good news about the relationship between humanity and the earth. The good news lives in you. The good news lives in me. The good news lives in the ways we build new relationships to our earth that focus on sustainability and mutual flourishing. And this is what April asked me to reflect on. Let me offer you some words from 19th century transcendentalist Margaret Fuller. All around us lies what we neither understand nor use. Our capacities, our instincts for this, our present sphere, are but half developed. Let us confine ourselves to that till the lessons be learned. Let us be completely natural before we trouble ourselves with the supernatural. I never see any of these things, but I long to get away and lie under a green tree and let the wind blow on me. There is marvel and charm enough in that for me. When's the last time you appreciated the nature around you? It isn't always easy in the winter season of Chicago, but what about marveling at our beautiful, profound lake? What about feeling the power of the chill on your face? What about the joy of catching snowflakes on your tongue as they fall delicately from the sky? And yes, I know it's not healthy, but it's good to do anyway. Our transcendentalist ancestors wanted us to attach ourselves to the natural world. Not to run away from society, but rather to integrate society with this natural world. What we can know about God, what we can know about the divine, is not in some supernatural other, but rather in the very tangible and graspable world around us. There is so much to marvel at and be taken by. Your invitation this morning is to commune more deeply with the sacred planet of ours. Your invitation is to embrace the natural and find answers to some of the biggest questions we could possibly encounter. What is the purpose of life, you might ask? Well, what do the trees, with their roots searching for nutrients, have to teach us? Where do we find joy in this broken world? What might a new litter of puppies have to teach us about that? We need not look to far off places. We need only look at the world around us to find purpose and possibility. So what's yours? Sometimes the symbiosis we experience is less about the immediate relationship between humanity and the more than human world. Instead, this symbiosis may be about the ways we learn from the creatures all around us. And to be honest, I mostly just wanted to read this book to you today. I just wanted to sit here and read chapter after chapter. I thought that might be a good use of our time. There is within this so many entry points for us to consider the learnings that might be available if we listen to our marine mammal siblings. And so here is some, but not all, of Gumb's book. They say river dolphins don't leap as much as dolphins in the ocean. Because of turbid flows of rushing waters, they do not trust their eyes. Their eyes grow small. Echolocation becomes crucial. Their listening becomes more nuanced. They become experts of shape and shape themselves to become narrow, reaching forward like the river. River dolphins all around the world, and the Ganges and the Amazon rivers, for example, are not close genetic relatives, but they are remarkably physically similar. They've grown common forms due to their common circumstances. And then she asks her readers, have you grown that way, Riverine? In a context that moves so quickly that looking at it tells you almost nothing? Are you evolving a deeper way of listening where you are? Could we become students of shape precise enough to move with the grace and flexibility our circumstances require, even though your river is not my river? Listening to each other. It's amazing how much we can learn from marine animals when it comes to communicating. We cannot expect our communication to work with one another when we all talk in the same way over and over and over again. We get lost in the technicalities at times. We talk across each other. We think we're getting what we need communicated out to others, and then we discover that what we sent out with our words or our body language or our impatient emails, these created more tension and less authentic communication. Things bounce out and then bounce back, and we notice how much the difference between intent and impact can really be. What might happen if we slow down? Adapt. What might happen if we evolve our communication to meet the needs not only of ourselves, but the pods we travel in? Our church is a pod, and there are times when we communicate with each other successfully and with grace, and other times we struggle. Can we continue to evolve together? Can we improve together? Can we see our pod as a space for trying things out, knowing that we are not always going to be successful? And in case you're curious, that's literally what every sermon I say is about. Can we try it together? We do not promise to get it right all the time, but we do promise to keep trying. I like to remind us regularly of the Martin Buber quote that humans are a promise-making, promise-breaking, and promise-renewing creature. Is it possible that our evolving communication is part of our promise renewing? Is it possible that we can learn from the world around us and try communicating in renewed ways, learning from our dolphin siblings? The symbiosis between humanity and the earth does not lie only in the learnings there is to do between creatures. There are also very real ways our human behavior transforms the world that we're part of in beautiful and nurturing ways. It's not all bad news. There is a long-told story about a villager and her 2 buckets. Maybe you've heard it. I can imagine that this story is familiar to some of you, but I want to tell it again anyhow. Stories teach lessons in ways little else does, and as we know from the recently concluded Christmas season, you can't tell the same story too many times. Or maybe you can. There is always more to learn, I think. There are always little changes in the stories, and When we tell them, we make them new again. And so a long time ago, there was a village filled with people. Everyone in this village had a job to do their part to take care of the community. There was one villager who was an expert weaver and pottery maker. This villager was charged with the great responsibility of getting to the well each day and picking up water for her village. She was very proud of her job, knowing how important it was to have water for her community to survive and thrive. Each day she would get up and walk along the same path with her 2 buckets, each bucket secured to straps that rested over her very strong shoulders. She often welcomed a hand from her children to secure the straps around her and get the buckets ready for her necessary job. As the story goes, one of the buckets worked perfectly. It had been hand woven and had all the best protections for the water, keeping it securely in the bucket during the travel from the well back to the village. The other bucket, though, this one had a crack, and it was always so hard to fix. No matter what she did, this villager could never quite get the bucket exactly right, and it would drip water out as she returned from the well back to her home. This was deeply frustrating. But the villager had another idea. She always walked the same way. The routine was part of what made the event meaningful each day. The familiarity of it was comforting and grounding for the rest of the work ahead. Sometimes the villager would count her steps and see if she could step in the same footprints she had left the previous day. They were hard to see under the brush, but she always did her best. On one particular day, when she was feeling especially frustrated with the dripping bucket, she noticed something she hadn't ever noticed before. The path she took, and she took it every day, one side of the path had wildflowers growing, whereas the other side of the path did not. The villager thought of herself as quite observant and was surprised that she had never noticed the flowers before. On her walk from the well back to the village, she noticed a drop of water fall from the broken bucket and land right on the top of a petal of a beautiful purple flower. And all of a sudden, her frustration about the broken bucket fled from her mind. Instead, she was filled with a sense of gratitude. Her bucket wasn't actually broken. It was doing exactly what it was intended to do. She, as the water bearer, was giving gift of new life along the path. The flowers bloomed, the bees buzzed, and the honey was made. The bucket may not have been doing what she imagined it would, maybe not serving its fullest function to nourish the village with drink, but it was doing something equally important. Each drop of water the villager spilled each drop of water the villager spilled along the path was nourishing the land and giving life to new things. Life that was contributing to the entire ecosystem, even as the villagers themselves contributed to the world around them. Symbiosis is not always obvious. The beautiful gifts humanity makes to the planet are not always easy to see. It's tempting to get lost in the messiness and the enormity of the work that lies ahead when we think about caring for this, our beautiful, single planet. But we must not lose sight of the good news, the beauty, and the potential growth. There are broken buckets watering the earth all around us. There are moments of symbiosis that highlight the gift humanity is to the earth. Good news abounds, and it is up to us to pay attention to it. With a renewed sense of purpose, the water bearer came to understand her gift not just as the provider of water for her village, but also as a water bearer for the wildflowers on her route. What a gift to feel so connected to the earth. What a gift to understand the ways one life can impact the land around them. Can you imagine your own ways of watering wildflowers? When discussing this sermon with my colleague, the Reverend Sean Neil Barron, he suggested that he's generally in favor of humans existing, even with how terrible we can be. And this might not be the most life-saving message Unitarian Universalism has to offer, but I don't think it's the worst one either. Humans are complicated, and we can get lost in the devastation we cause and miss the flowers that we are growing. It's easy to get wrapped up in despair, but part of why we come to church is to refuse to be wrapped up in that despair forever. We are learning how to be in relationship with one another, with the more than human world, and with our understanding of the divine. The good news is clear. We humans are part of a larger ecosystem, and when we behave in ways that sustain it, the ecosystem sustains us in return. Recycling plastic, that might be a failed experiment. But there are endless experiments still available to us as we continue to build our relationship with the earth. We just need to keep trying, and do that trying while listening, and do that listening while worshiping, and do that worshiping while attending to the deeply natural world around us. Find your own symbiotic relationships to our world, and then magnify it by being in relationship with others. We are part of something much bigger than ourselves. Marvel in it. Let it be so, and amen.
Please join me in singing our closing hymn, number 1064 from the Teal Hymnal. This is Blue Boat Home. Oh, below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, with my dry land heart can say,
practice noticing, beloveds. Let us find our symbiosis. It's right there in front of us.